Well, hello and welcome. I'm Sue Britz,
And I'm Tina Lokkbakk. Welcome to Retired.
the podcast where we talk about what life is like when we put on new tread, new wheels that move us to our next adventure.
Hi, Sue. So we were. Go ahead, please.
No, I was gonna say so.
No, you. I insist.
This is your gig here today.
Well, I'm about to do not a U-turn, but we're gonna make a very hard left. You know, sometimes you get to an intersection and like you make a left and it's like 90-degree angle, but then there's some where you kind of end up. It seems like a U-turn and you make a V.
Okay.
So that's where we're gonna go with this.
Okay. I'm just along for the ride, riding shotgun. Go ahead.
So right before we got on this podcast, my oldest daughter is becoming a nurse.
Practitioner.
And she just shared with me how she just aced a test, and it was a state test.
Excellent.
And how exciting it was. And I wrote down this little note here that I think is very true. When you love something, you probably will excel at it when you truly, truly desire it and love it more than anything. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. Just about your engagement with something. If you find a passion and you just go for it, I mean, you dedicate yourself to. I think that people, by their nature, are drawn to things that they can do. They just have to develop their proficiency, their mastery of that. But and it's not to say that. I mean, to do it at the master's level, you're going to find nuances of that task or that interest that other people will never get to because they don't have that level of passion about it. So, but passion will drive you. And I think one of the most horrible things that can happen to somebody is if they have this passion, they've identified it, and they want to go after it, and they keep getting crushed every single time at every turn. And it's about persistence. Just keep going at it because it's your soul, right?
Excellent. And the point you just brought up that I think has stuck with me, and it just recently. For instance, I have zero desire to be an astronaut. Like zero. Like you couldn't pay me enough money to want to go into space or to sit in a room and get used to the gravity thing and science and none of it, right? So you're right. You're probably only going to have this level of commitment and passion towards something that calls you, and probably because you have some strength in
Aptitude, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, I don't know why that's so shockingly huge for me.
Mm-mm.
I mean, like, this is a new concept that I had never connected. And then here you say it again. And I just came across it recently that you will pursue the things that you're probably talented in. But you brought up another level, and I think it's true, which was my second little note before getting on with you, which is about commitment. And so it's not enough to identify what you love and then decide that you're going to do this thing. It's the commitment of showing up all the time for that thing.
Well,
Wouldn't you say? I mean, it takes two parts for this.
I think that natural passion will drive you through. It'll take that commitment through. However, again, if you hit these walls that keep you from doing the things you need to do, or there's a part of the job or the passion that requires you to acquire other skills that maybe you're not as interested in, but it's required in order to do that skill really well, then that's where you have to commit, where you have to sludge through the work. Because I think if you're truly passionate about something, even though you're sludging through something, it doesn't bother you. You feel a pride and a purpose and an excitement about it. It's kind of like teaching. You know, there was a lot of hardship. There is a lot of hardship and difficulty every day at different levels in the job, whether it's the child's attitude or something they're going through or their family is going through, or their parents are attacking you, or the school district says you have to have this many minutes for that, or your boss maybe is not the correct one for you, or you have an intrigue with a colleague or something. It those things can distract you from all that is your job, but you go through that for the most part, and it's a pride to carry yourself through it. You don't feel resentful to personally resentful. Maybe in the moment, some you don't like it or whatever, but there's a larger feeling of there's this purpose behind it. There's this passion behind it that carries you through. So, yeah, teaching is
Eh,
a good example of that.
I think teaching is, I think we could probably do an episode every week about what teaching taught us. I know we covered it once, but we could talk about each individual thing. And I think it taught me commitment. It
Mhm.
taught me that when I took on this class for this year, I was committed to see it to the end. It taught me, you're right, to be strong even on the really hard days, no matter what student it is, because you have everybody else to show up for. So
Every
it
day's a
teaches
hard
you.
day, Tina. But
It it
some of the
it,
hard is
it was
not as
hard,
hard.
right? I don't know how I lasted now that I've stepped out of it for so long, but I have to tell you, the one of the best years I ever had was after I'd been that stay-at-home mom. I go back part-time to realize that I missed it, and then the following year I went back full-time. And it was in the middle of it all, right? The thick of the storm, the divorce, the parents dying. But I loved it, Sue. And I remember, and Maria keeps reminding me, I said, you know what? I am so lucky because I'm going to do something I love. And even if they didn't pay me for it, I would still want to be in this classroom at this time. And then there was a shift a couple of years later. And it's interesting the things that can make it change. How can I be, and how can you be, and how can teachers be so committed and happy one year and then it can all shift, after that?
I think it's a cumulative effect, or it could be a traumatic something that happens, at any year in your career. But I think for us, well, I'll speak for myself.
Yeah.
Over, I mean, I knew I was working towards retirement. As even as a young person, I already thought, okay, what's my plan and how am I going to do it? And along the way, here are all the things I want to do, and I had so many other things I wanted to do, so it wasn't going to be hard to transition to retirement to a different phase. But in the meantime, you got to make a living. You got to, and then you don't want. One of the beautiful things about teaching is you're really not distracting yourself from these passions along the way because it's such a dynamic profession and it touches on so many different genres and you pull them all together. It's all very exciting and very fun. And then each individual, each kid you work with all year long and their families, because you are with some of these kids, you're working with their families as well. And with your colleagues that you are going through this tough year with, I mean, this tough career with, and you need to support each other and empower each other. And then your administration, if you're supporting them well and they're supporting you, or you're fighting for your rights and you're with the working in the union trying to make things, I mean, there's so many levels, and it's all amazing and wonderful, and it's all overwhelming and hard and takes a toll. It's there's so much stress involved, and you carry it for so long. I think at some point, something, whether it's your own personal stuff, like you were talking about, like your parents dying, my goodness, or going through a divorce, or you know, all these things that happen to us in life, something hits. And I know that for me, I made it through to retirement, but I was very, very ready because I was also done with putting up with bullshit. And if I could just teach, that would be wonderful, and it would be the same joy and magic it is every day. But there was so much bullshit that you had to plow through that it takes a toll. And at some point, I just don't want to keep doing that.
when I see a 12-year-old and I can hunt them out. If I'm out in public and something comes up and there's a kid and I'll say, "What are you? 6th grade?" And 90% of the time I nail it. And I think this has been my motto. If I could just give me the goals. What do these kids have to know by the end of the year? And just let me do it.
Yeah.
And I think this is where I find this grieving, and this is why I bring up my identification of these kids. I see them, and a part of me longs so badly to go back into that classroom and have my little pod of kids and take them through the year. And I think if I had to say one thing that just hurt my soul was no longer having the freedom to just teach to the goal. And it was turning more and more into, you will be on this page on this day. There were just so many other things. And if we could just make the lesson, execute the lesson, give them a test to assess them on the lesson, I think I would still want to be there today and I wouldn't have been burned out. But it's
Right. Yeah.
all these other things that I think every year is just one more layer, one more layer. And I don't think it's because I'm getting older.
I
That
agree.
could be part of it. But I still feel this grieving, Sue. I do. I really actually I miss it. I miss that part of it.
Right.
And it changed. It just changed. And I don't know if it's just the administration, if the district changed, if it's everywhere. I don't know. But I do know that when I went back and said, I could do this for free, it's because I had the freedom to hit the goals and do the thing in my own way with my own creativity. And it just ended up dying.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think it would be interesting to talk to a teacher who and ask them out these questions. And I also know that they will say things they can't say all the things.
right.
There's too much danger in saying
There
all the
is.
things. And
There is danger. That's very true.
and yet at the same time I think there's a cost of not being able to be really frank and talk about all these things
Mm-hmm.
too. I think that's part of the thing we carry. And I also, what you said is maybe it's just your time in your life. Yes and no. I mean, I know that there are teachers who hit real hard times in their life early in their careers, and you have to see how that affects you and how you carry yourself. And that would be regardless of the job you're doing or where you are in life. This is what you got to do. But there's a special quality or impact that happens in teaching because it's so personal. I mean, it is very
Yeah.
personal, and it's hard not to take things personally because you're you're putting your heart and soul into this
Yes.
classroom and these kids every day, and they do the same. They bring their hearts and souls too, and you are
Oh,
carrying that. You are protecting that, and you are helping facilitate their growth. And that's the beautiful magic of what teaching is. And then when you put all this other stuff on it, it's really hard. I mean, it is stressful, and I it's you can kind of compare it to other professions. I mean, your daughter's talking about nursing. When you're in a nursing profession, say in the ER, um, and I mean, you have to work together as a team, and you have to get through this battle, this war against the illness
life.
or the injury and the attacks on you and the impact, the dangers that you have to encounter, and you do it together and you support each other, and it's so difficult and so joyous. It's a passion if you love it. And I mean that's how my wife describes it when she talks about her ER work, and you see it when she gets together with her colleagues. You just see, wow, this is this mutual support group that gets you through things that are so personal, so emotional, and you do it together. So there's this special bond there. But that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stress. I mean, they talk about teaching being one of the most stressful jobs as compared to, say, like the air traffic controller people. They've got a very stressful job, and your tension's everywhere all the time. And it's the same thing, I guess, in like an ER situation where your attention's everywhere all at once. You're paying. There's so many layers of it, and teaching that much more because you got 30 some kids in front of you, and each one is you're trying to gauge and monitor how to reach these kids, if they're doing what they need to do, how they're feeling. I mean, yeah. And then underneath it all your personal life and everything. So, yeah, it's
And
a
your
lot.
exhaustion if you didn't sleep and
Yeah,
you
it's
have to show up, or you're sick and
yeah, it's a
not
lot
sick
to
enough to
carry.
stay home, but sick enough or well enough to get into that classroom, to be the effective teacher. Yeah, it's a lot of layers.
That's one thing
And
I wish that people would
yeah,
do is learn from the COVID experiences. If you're sick, stay home.
stay
Whether you're a
home,
teacher or a
stay
student, stay
home.
home. And
Right. Do us all a
yeah.
favor.
And yet, I don't think that's stuck in our culture. We've gone back. It's the same thing. People don't. They're a little bit more aware, but not much.
Not
Not to the
much.
point where you're like, really? You made it through the pandemic and you're not being responsible to public health. It's crazy.
And just imagine how much less flu and cold. But, I saw a lot of it where, my friends that wanted to go back to work with their kids, often they would bring their kids, even though you're not supposed to, with a fever,
Oh,
but they
jeez.
medicated it. And then they would bring their kids into the childcare. And, it slaughters everyone. And when everybody does that, then everybody keeps getting sick. It's just cycle after cycle. But they didn't have anyone that would help with their kids. They didn't have enough sick days. I mean, it's a hard thing. And I think that's part of it at school too, is, the parents can't take the time off. If you don't have childcare, it's a big deal.
It's a
It's
big
a
deal.
hard thing. So we do what we can.
Yep.
We do what we can. But I think today what I wanted to bring up as the key point, so many things teaching taught me. And I think it's commitment. Now, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Am I a committed person and therefore I keep my commitments? Or do I make a decision to commit, and by committing I become a committed person? Like chicken or egg, right?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, so I have a kind of a funny story. Not funny, it's not at all, but laugh or cry. So my transmission died, and I was bringing it into the transmission person shop to see if it was truly dying. And on the way there, the symptom that said that I had read about that could happen happened on the way there. So luckily I made it, going 25 miles an hour to the transmission place. So in fact, my car died, but I was a little bit concerned because I was supposed to go to my Toastmasters meeting and I had a role. And it was my first time not being able to go, perhaps. And so I wanted to let everybody have a heads up. It was not the biggest role, so that was good. But I still felt committed and responsible. And I thought to myself after I let them know, hey, I'm at the transmission store. I don't think I'll make it. Wanted to give you a heads up. And then it occurred to me, and maybe this is also what teaching taught us. You have to think fast and you have to think outside the box. And maybe that's a skill that it teaches us more than maybe others, is because instantly there's always problems and instantly we have to solve them, right? And there's
Right.
no one to turn to but ourselves. So in that instant, after I pressed send to these people, I thought, wait a minute, I can get there. I just need to get an Uber to get over to Maria's shop so I can take her car and I can make it to the meeting. And sure enough, I did. And I thought, how many people do this? How many people for a club meeting, for a small role, would even think or care? And I thought, that is what teaching taught me. When you make a decision, or it's that need to show up, because it's not just about you, it's about others. And by me not filling that role, that meant someone else who wasn't prepared was going to have to fill the role. And I think that that's a discipline. But again, chicken or egg. Am I a committed person, or did teaching teach me that commitment?
I think that it's a little bit of both. I agree. I think that some professions, it's not the same thing. Like if you I'm not putting down any other careers, by the way, because they're all
No.
massively important and everything. But I'm thinking if you are, let's just choose something kind of important and timely. So say you work for a mortgage company
Hmm.
and you are managing someone's loan. And I mean, it's all timely. It all has to happen here, and everything has to be done. Generally, your mortgage company's got enough people that someone else is going to be able to take it. They know exactly what to do. They may not know the client and their specific circumstances. They can get filled in pretty quickly, but the process is more straightforward and narrow. And
Mm.
there's the one, this is one case, not 30 cases sitting there in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, where in teaching, so it's important, and maybe that person who has to take over the job is going to, for that day, is going to feel a little bit resentful or overwhelmed or whatever, but it's part of the job. It's the pressure of the job. We get that. We have that in all our professions. And in teaching, though, it's really, really different
Yeah.
because there are 30 little souls sitting out there, or at
Personalities.
least 30,
Yeah.
and some are very particular. And if things are handled just this way or just that way, then
It
it
could be
can,
great or horrible.
yeah, and it have consequences down the road for a good while. And so while you have, your principal may be aware, and and this whatever specialists are aware at the school, they're all busy doing their thing, and they're not going to come in and take care of that kid. So getting a substitute that also knows and has some of the experience and has worked with the kid in previous years, that would be helpful, but it's not a given by any means. It's, I mean, today it's, even if you can even get a sub for you,
I
is a
know.
deal.
Frightening.
And then, who's going to follow your instructions and where you left off. And so everything's put on pause. It's a really different situation, and then you're following up on behavioral stuff too, that, there's got to be consequence. You're holding this contract through with this child or whatever. And if those things aren't done on the regular, then it all falls apart. So it's a different thing. And that discipline is important. So I think teaching taught us massively how that impacts you. I mean, as a parent, you feel that with your own kid, but multiply it by the 30 some kids, it's a different ball game. Yeah, you need to show up. When it's personal, you need to show up. And so something that with your Toastmaster group, one is, I mean, you don't want to disappoint them. You don't want them to think you're a flake, that you're making up some lame excuse, because people
Right.
probably make up whatever
That's true.
excuses.
Hmm.
So there's that in the back of our minds. And like you said, not wanting to ruin their experience, someone who wasn't prepared. Although that's part of what
That
Toastmaster, I'm
is
sure,
true.
has to handle,
To be
because that's right. You got to be able to
impromptu.
do it. And we do that as teachers all the time. You got to show up, you got to figure it out, and you got to make it meaningful and to the best level that it can be done. So, did they get the text that you sent? And what did they say when you showed up?
Uh, they just smiled because it's such a well-run machine. Like, I got in there with 1 minute to spare, and then bam, everybody has to be seated and ready. It's kind of neat.
And what was your task?
I was a general evaluator. So at the very end of the meeting, I had to explain what went well, where it could have gotten, better, what surprising things happened, or something interesting that to point out and reflect upon.
And how did it go?
Well, and I'm going to try here. I don't even want to tell you, because now you're going to be aware. Every listener is going to be aware. I need to learn to not fill the space with so, like, and during my evaluation, I got flustered and I just burst out laughing because I threw in every so, and then I get done saying that and went and it was kind of funny. So that is my goal. That is my improvement skill.
But you know what? We all do that, because that's part of natural speech. And when you're on the line to talk,
Yeah.
You're filling space while you're forming ideas.
Correct.
Or letting those ideas flow naturally.
Yeah.
Well, it takes practice, and
it does.
The more we do this, the more, and I already knew this, but the more you look at professional speakers, you look at your television commentators, or anyone else, and you just go, wow, they really know their craft. They really practice their craft.
That's true.
I listen to podcasts, and some of those could, of course, be edited, but you listen and you think, these people they've really got their craft down. And we're just having fun here and sharing our lives and life experiences and hoping you're all enjoying that. And we just, don't worry about the and the so. And on the other hand, so is not a bad transition. Sometimes it's very appropriate.
True. It's the overusage. So I need perhaps when I get off the phone today to look up all the synonyms and throw in better
That's true.
transitional words.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's got to be something bigger than so. But I use it all the time.
And I like to no, I've started taking and I mindfully have done and as improv because the yes and you're
I
supposed to
love
do,
the yes and.
and I'm kind of signaling when I emphasize the and because I want to mindfully mark that in my own thoughts, but I also think it's good for the listener, whether it be you or on a podcast that there is this is not a but. This is a and.
I like the and.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
the and. Point out one of the most powerful things that I've seen in speeches. And this weekend, I will be going to, it's called Empowered in Reno, and it's a women's business group. And it was a Toastmasters lady who's the president and one of the other ladies in it who's going to be giving a speech. And it's like 8 women who will be giving speeches over 2 hours. And I'm interested in going because the more you start watching, like you're listening to podcasts from a different perspective now. And we're starting to really appreciate the effectiveness and the challenge to really communicate something smoothly. So I will be going this weekend. What I wanted to say was this week's speech, this particular speaker had to do this at the last minute because they needed a second speaker. So he volunteered. He's a professor at UNR. Amazing. And what he did, and I'm starting to see, is the pause. It's the pause, but it's also the repetition of the key word. So his topic was something about success. And I don't even really remember so much what it was, except that when you are in a room with a powerful speaker, wow. So he did this thing. He just success, success, success. And he waited on each word. And I thought, isn't that just cool?
That's a rhetorical device that we were talking about.
So I just had to share that with you because I think that's just a little skill to keep in life, that if you want it to land, whatever the key point is, there is an important pause that has to take place. If you breeze through it, it loses its strength.
I remember talking to kids about that when we always gave talks or lectures in class. The kids would have to come up and speak, and I'd say, how could we make this more effective? And one of the most important things is to say it over and over again. I mean, if you want to sell it, literally like a commercial, or like you say, have it land, you need to find ways to repeat. And kids got pretty good about how they would repeat. Maybe someone would be an echo, or someone would, it was always very fun when they turn it into a performance. But that's what a performer does, whether it's artistic or news or motivational speaker, whatever it might be. When people hone that craft, they get really, really good at it. It's not all editing, people. It is truly,
but
a great
you're right.
speaker.
Giving a speech is a performance.
It is.
I think I felt it, but you just voiced it. And I think beautiful description of what a speech is. A well done speech is, in fact, a performance. That's true.
Well, you were saying that maybe we're paying more attention to it. This is one of the things I've paid attention to for a long time. I think from childhood, I think this is one of my things. When I want to produce something, I am thinking about the organization of it, the tone, the caliber of vocabulary. I think about where it could have gone, where it might lead, and how to guide it there. I think about transitions and when it's a good place. So I'm thinking about all this at the same time that I am there. And when I studied television, radio production, I never thought of myself as the talent. I didn't want to be, didn't like my voice, I don't memorize things well. Yeah. I'm just a normal speaker. And I also, in doing this podcast stuff, have kind of surrendered to, well, if I want to do this, You're going to have to do it. But I will say the production part's always one of my favorite. It's my favorite, where I'm leading as a director or the producer or the editor or the overall arching thing. To me, the production, the creation, the facilitation of the production is what does it. And that's what allowed me to finally accept and embrace being a teacher, because that's what a teacher does. You are
You're
a
right.
director, a producer. Your job is not to be in front of the mic.
And the writer.
Your job is to be the facilitator of all of this, and to do so in a dynamic,
So true.
interesting, integrative way is what you're trying to create. And that's why teaching became something that I could be impassioned by. It was
Mhm.
not my passion from the beginning. I totally rejected
Mhm.
it. And when I rethought about it as production, like you do for
Wow.
TV or radio, that's exactly what it is. That's
You're right.
the hook that got me, that allowed me to settle into that career and develop and hone my craft that way.
I sit in silence and I wish you could see my face, listeners, because that's exactly what teaching is. It is like putting on a production every single day.
Yep.
And there's so many different things you have to incorporate and keep smooth and underway. And I think if I could sum up the most positive thing in this place where I'm trying to retire myself and figure out in which direction to go, I realized, is there a profession as well diverse to teach you so many skills? Like, I don't know if there
No.
is another profession like the FAA guy. You're right, but he's focused on the one thing. We've got so many things focused, and to
Mhm.
be able to still get the point across that we're trying to teach, create harmony and balance and interest and leadership and kindness and working with personalities and personality disorders and all the things, like, it's kind of wow.
Yeah.
I think as I'm going out into the world, meeting and seeing and doing, I'm realizing, oh yeah, teaching taught me this, teaching taught me this, it's kind of an amazing thing we did.
It is. And my deepest respects to those still doing it and doing it
Yes, thank
well.
you.
Every
Thank
day
you.
at every level, from TK through high
Yes,
school. Thank
all
you,
the way
thank you, thank
through.
you.
Yep, and for those that love the ages they did. I always thought I don't love high school at all. I really don't. And I really don't think I'd have the patience to do TK or K. But I always used to look at them and say, "Thank you for doing that age.
Mhm.
Thank you for
And
doing
doing
that
it
age."
well.
And then I realized there were people that would look at me and go, "Sixth grade, are you crazy?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, they're beautiful beings."
Yep.
So you're right. There's someone for everything,
Yep.
everyone.
Yep. Thanks for listening. Now let's pack up this week's episode in the trunk.
Ride shotgun and be a part of our adventure by clicking on the plus sign to follow our show. This will help our ratings and, more importantly, inspire us to keep creating fun and engaging content. We would love to hear from you in the comment sections, or email us at retiredpodcastnewtred@gmail.com. Use the fast track lane by sharing episodes with friends, family, and anyone who would like to join us on a road trip through retirement.
Be sure to check the show notes for links and contact information. Retired is chauffeured by Sue Britz and Tina Lokkbakk. It is produced, directed, and edited by me, Sue Britz. Music and graphics are by me too. Buckle up and tune in next week so that you won't miss your chance to
Join a retired road trip.